The next few days will define what happens to our country, as we've already sent another U.S. aircraft carrier close to Israel in what could be the precursor to the next world war. Now, I don't mean to scare anybody here, but we got to realize that, it's best to be aware of what's really happening around the world.
The New York Times reports that Israeli forces have delayed their initial plans as weather conditions in the area could worsen.
Meanwhile, a second U.S. aircraft carrier is on its way to the Mediterranean Sea in what Defense Secretary Lord Austin calls a show of force, as the U.S. continues to affirm its support for Israel.
Despite that, Iran is now warning Israel to stop the fighting immediately, saying any further action they take will cause a, quote, huge earthquake for Israel if their operations in Gaza continue.
Note the wording earthquake. Like, what comes after an earthquake? That's right, guys, aftershocks that will send ripples throughout the entire world. Now, I know that this is not my usual topic, but it's so important that I want all of you guys to be aware of what's happening right now.
Israeli leaders are expressing gratitude for the outpouring of international support they've received over the past 24 hours, including from here in the U.S., a home many Americans stuck in Israel hope to see again soon.
Tel Aviv's Ben Gurion Airport was packed with passengers eager to flee, filled with uncertainty.
It took 4 hours to get to the gate. It was a madhouse.
Alan Goldfarb arrived from New Jersey Thursday and was supposed to start a 2-week tour tomorrow. Instead, he and his sister found themselves in a bomb shelter in their hotel. Outside the capital city looked like a ghost town. He spent $2,000 for one of the last seats open on a flight back home.
And glad I did. I'm just sorry I wasn't able to tour the country, but I'm safe.
CNN's Nick Robertson shared his experience from the tarmac outside, where bombs rained down in the distance.
But everyone is taking cover. They've got down.
The fear apparent among his fellow travelers, cowering for cover. New Jersey native Lori Bader spent the day in her hotel's bomb shelters, a very different experience than her previous visits to the country she loves. Just yesterday, she was enjoying lunch outdoors with her daughter.
It's been very tumultuous, very unsettling, very upsetting, obviously. I'm not so much worried about my own safety because I'm in the safety of a hotel, but I am worried about the Israelis and what they're going through right now because it's a really horrendous situation.
And for those who haven't followed this entire situation, Iran seems to be emboldened and Republicans are placing the blame on none other than Joe Biden.
McCarthy joined other Republicans blaming Mr. Biden for Iran's role in the Hamas attacks. The U.S. arranged a prisoner swap with Iran last month that freed up $6 billion in Iranian oil money.
They are wealthier, richer and stronger under this Biden administration.
Accusations like that drew fierce pushback from White House officials.
This money was always earmarked only for humanitarian purposes. It doesn't go to the Iranian regime. It goes through approved vendors right to the Iranian people, who we have no beef with.
What do you think he means when he says an approved vendor? Like someone who's selling humanitarian stuff? I mean, it's vague, right? But the U.S. has actually responded in some way with one senator, Senator Tom Cotton, calling on the federal government to move much more quickly to save American lives.
Let's start with this conversation about U.S. boots on the ground. You heard Admiral Kirby say not ruling anything in or out, but you've called for special operators to go in.
We have specially trained warriors in the Army and the Navy whose main mission is to rescue American hostages wherever they may be. Of course, those decisions have to be made based on the intelligence and the facts on the ground, but it should never be ruled out that American soldiers will save American lives. This is the worst attack on Jews since the Holocaust, but it's also one of the worst terrorist attacks on the American people in recent times as well. We now have 29 Americans killed and at latest reporting 14 who are unaccounted for. So if there's an opportunity for America's elite warriors to save American citizens, that's the responsibility of our government. It's not the responsibility of the government of Israel.
Now, again, these numbers are absolutely alarming. And while some folks would say that it's crazy for another world war to happen, well, it's crazy for a war to happen right now after the pandemic, but it's still supposedly going on, right? Now, before we get any further, I want to get your thoughts on this one. Do you feel as if America should get involved in this conflict? To do that, just simply comment a yes or no down below. And while you guys are at it, go ahead and smash the like button for the video. We need to get this message out to as many people as we can. And if you want to stay updated on everything that's happening around us, everything that affects our lives directly, go ahead and hit the subscribe button on the channel and turn on all notifications. Appreciate the support, you guys. So getting back to the topic, and just to give you guys an idea as to how the White House has actually taken all of this in, we do hear from the Pentagon, and the message is crystal clear. They're going to need more money. Yes, folks, they actually said that. And just to prove it to you guys, I got footage right here.
President Biden huddled with his national security team today and spoke with European allies, looking for ways to head off a wider conflict.
This is not a moment for any party hostile to Israel to exploit these attacks to seek advantage.
The Pentagon has already begun airlifting U.S. weapons and munitions to the Israelis. And a carrier strike group, 6 U.S. ships plus jets, has nearly reached the eastern Mediterranean. Its goal is to serve as a deterrent to attacks by Hezbollah or Iran. The U.S. Army Secretary warned today that the Pentagon will require more funding to fully supply both Israel and Ukraine.
We need additional support from Congress, so I hope we'll see that soon.
Now, again, I got to ask you guys, because you're here in this country that we call home, right? Do you feel as if the United States is equipped? And when I say equipped, I'm talking about having enough weapons and money to send to 2 different wars. So is the United States, in your mind, equipped to help out both Israel and Ukraine in its own respective wars? Or are we just stretching ourselves way too thin here? Because if you're agreeing with the latter point here, wherein the United States is just stretching its resources too thin, then I got bad news for you guys. It kind of looks like we're going to be involved in this war earlier than anticipated. That is, if you believe what John Kirby has to say.
Would we have U.S. boots on the ground for that or any other operation you can see?
So let me take this in chunks. There's no plans or intentions to put U.S. troops on the ground to fight in this fight between Israel and Hamas. We are actively trying to find out exactly where they are. I mean, Shannon, we don't even know how many exactly. We saw a small handful we know, but there could be more than we know. They could be in different groups. They could be moved around. I think you can understand, I hope everybody can understand, that we're going to be careful about what we say publicly about our efforts to get those hostages home. Secretary Blinken's in the region right now, traveling around. This is high on his agenda. I can tell you we're working this literally by the hour. But we're not going to get ahead of where we are in terms of policy options, since we don't have necessarily all the information we need to try to get them home. I will say last thing, and I promise I'll stop, is this is obviously high on the president's priority list. Nothing's more important to him than the safety and security of Americans that are held hostage overseas, and we're not going to stop until we can get them back with their families.
Would you absolutely rule out the possibility of any kind of U.S. forces being on the ground there?
What I won't do is rule anything in or out when it comes to getting our hostages home. We're working on this literally by the hour. But again, in order for you to develop specific policy options, you got to have a lot more contextual information than it's available to us right now, and we're working at that.
Take from that what you will, folks, but it sure looks like we're in a very similar situation compared to other conflicts that happen anywhere but here. But hey, what do you guys think about all this? Besides getting our people home, should the United States get any more involved in this war than it already is? And do you feel as if this war was sparked by the decisions of this administration? I mean, we got so much to talk about when it comes to this topic, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys have to say down in the comment section. So please let me know where you guys stand on this and what we as a country should be doing. Now, before I go, guys, I just want to thank you guys so much for hanging out. Thanks for dropping a like for the video. Thank you for subscribing. Keep safe, and I'm going to catch you guys on the next one.